I've always wanted to try that.
That Kramer entrance.
Yes, it walks in. I mean, I got the Kramer hair right now, so
Yeah.
what's going on? Welcome everybody to another episode of Zia Comics Weekly. Joey here with you. Got my man, Mr. Knight, aka Troy.
One of my dissociative disorder identities.
One of the many personalities that you can find here, and today we're getting this personality today. If you're just checking in with us for the very first time, welcome to Zia Comics Weekly, where we talk all things nerd. And of course, we don't just do this by ourselves. We do this with the help of you. So if you are watching, if you are plugged in, check in with us. Let us know you're listening. Comment. Get involved in the conversation. If there's something y'all want to hear or talk about, anything you want us to say, if you want me to try that roll in again, I'll do it too. We'll try to
roll in and roll out.
Maybe Troy can try it too. We'll see how this works out. But jump in on it. There you see. So I think I might have more space than you, so I can actually.
You can do that whole stair step thing where you're like you're climbing up steps to get there.
So yes, jump in on the conversation. Let us know, and yeah, anything you guys want to talk about. It is another episode. Troy, what's going on with you, my man? Obviously, Mr. Knight, which means you are keeping up with Moon Knight.
Yes, sir. I watched it just this morning. When I get home on Wednesday nights, I'm usually beat, and first thing I wake up on Thursday, I run, click on my Disney Plus, give the mouse my money.
Yes, I mean he's got to take his cut every month, so got to make sure we get him covered.
Yeah, he's worse than the IRS.
Right? It's like tax day, and make sure your subscription is paid for.
Yeah, subscriptions. Gosh, yeah. I got so many.
Man, I know. If you really count back how many subscriptions you have, I mean, man, at this point, no wonder nobody has cable because you have nothing but subscriptions.
Yeah, every time I get ready to cancel one, I'm like, oh, but now this new show's coming out, and I don't want to miss it.
Yeah.
So they just keep stacking.
Although there is one that I say that you just can't get away from. And, I mean, this one, I don't know about you, but I think this is one that it will never be put on the should I cancel list. I think that's Netflix. I think Netflix never will be canceled. I think that's just going to be with us forever.
Yeah, well, that's what they thought about Blockbuster too. So,
hey, I mean, they are the ones that put them out of business. So.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Netflix. Have you seen the trailer to the Ozark? To the next Ozark?
No, I haven't. Did that drop already?
Oh my God, man! It's not out yet. They got the trailers out right now.
I told you they can't leave those strings hanging like that.
You know, that was the first thing I thought because it's been out for a while. I haven't seen it, but when I watched the trailers, like Troy was right. It was like there needed to be some type of closure to this.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, so I got to check out that trailer then.
Man, that and then Stranger Things, like.
Yeah, those kids got older though.
I mean, they're gonna have to eventually play it into this franchise.
Yeah, and I think this is the last season supposedly for Stranger Things. So
yes, they're breaking it up into 2 parts. We're gonna get the first part of the last season next month, and then I believe by August they'll wrap it up with the final season. Well,
I think they said each episode is going to be multi-hour. It's going to be longer than half hour, 40 minutes. It's supposed to be hour and more each episode.
Hey man, however they want to give it to us, we'll definitely be here for it. Especially if they say, "Oh, we'll get."
And that's why Netflix has my money.
See, Mickey and Netflix,
yeah,
they got us. Let's start off, man. Thoughts on Moon Knight? Now, I've been telling you, this is definitely one I need to make sure I stay more up to date with. Haven't got really a chance to because we'd be so busy these days. But yes. Moon Knight. What are your thoughts so far looking into so this is episode 3, correct?
Yeah, halfway through the season.
We're only getting 6 episodes for Moon Knight, and I know a lot are like, oh, I'll catch it by episode 8. No, you're getting 6 episodes. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of liking the 6-episode format because you're getting every episode actually means something. There's not filler episodes that are just there to fill, the time.
Mm-hmm.
And these first 3, the first one, if you're not familiar with Moon Knight and you want to watch a Moon Knight, at least read the Wikipedia page or you're going to be so confused because I watch it with my wife and she is not a comic book person. So about halfway through it, she was asking constant questions. About halfway through it, she just quit asking questions. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch something else. I'm gone. So if you don't know at least a little bit of that backstory, that first episode's kind of hard. But the second and third episode, man, it's just full speed. It's so many Easter eggs. Like I told you about the QR codes they hid in the first 2 episodes. And classically in the books, Moon Knight's had the 3 altered personalities, and we've only seen 2 so far.
Yeah,
but they very strongly hinted at the third one in this 3rd episode.
Okay.
So yeah, there's something happens and they talk the identities talk to each other like through reflections of mirrors or any kind of reflective material. And the one identity asked the other one, he's like, well, why did you do that? He's like, well, I didn't do it. He said, well, then who did? And I was like,
oh, there comes
we're going to get Jake Lockley finally.
For those that are, like you mentioned, new to Moon Knight, talk about, because I'm sure there's the comic book. So I don't know if you've checked out the comic book. What's your thoughts on it? Are we seeing some similarities? So for those that have seen the comic book, are we getting those same Easter eggs that we're getting in the series? Like I said, I'm trying to stay up as much as possible. And Troy's been doing a good job of not spoiling it because I do have every intention to watch this.
It's so hard not to spoil it too. Yeah, it's there's some differences, but not real major ones. So far, it's been pretty true to the comic. And Moon Knight is a character a lot of people didn't know about. He's a bad dude, though. He beat the Avengers by himself. He can throw down with the best of them. So
yeah,
you're seeing it.
And I think this is the perfect opportunity, to mention that there's a lot of these characters that if you look at the comic book realm, compare it to the movies, some of them may have not had as a bigger role as what you're seeing now with these franchises. Like, I the first one that comes to mind is look at Black Panther, just kind of how that's kind of in, and just then you get into the movie and just look how much it's expanded that world for us to now be excited as far as future rivalries with that. So it's not your Spider-Mans and your Iron Mans. This is something that eventually once you see it on the screen, you're like, they're pretty bad dudes.
Yeah, your major characters, everybody knows them and knows their backstories and origins. But people knew of Black Panther. They didn't know who he was and where his powers came from. And same thing with Moon Knight. People had heard the name. They kind of knew what he was. But now you're getting fully introduced to him. You're like, oh, this guy is such a cool character. Why didn't I read this before? Yeah. And Marvel's good about scraping the bottom of the barrel and pulling out these obscure people that are really cool. So
yeah. No, for me, Shang-Chi, that was one of those that you're just like, it was never really something that was on my radar. And it was even one of those movies that like, am I sure? Do I need to watch it to stay up with the franchise? And when I watched it, I was blown away because the backstories. We talk about the backstories to some of these characters.
Yeah, and they're pulling a lot. I like they're pulling a lot of the characters that are already diverse instead of changing the existing characters to be diverse. Because Black Panther, you didn't have to change a character. He's already from Wakanda. Yeah, Moon Knight is got Jewish and Egyptian background. You don't have to change it; it's already there. Yeah, and I like that they're actually pulling some of these characters. And you got Ms. Marvel, which is coming out soon. So they're pulling these existing characters to fit the diversity mold instead of taking the existing character people already like and changing them. Yeah, which there's been those rumors too, especially when it comes to DC. How we're hearing how they might change. I've been seeing this rumor for the longest time now, and I don't think they'll exactly go with it, but having a whole new different backstory to Superman. We heard Michael B. Jordan possibly being, Superman. I don't know how, for I think 3 years now I've been hearing that rumor about Michael B. Jordan being the new Superman. But I'm like, okay, so are we starting over or, They're pulling from a different universe. There's different parallel universes where different versions of these characters are. Yeah. And that's where they're pulling the Michael B. Jordan one. Yeah. Same thing with Fantastic Four when they did Galactus and all you saw was that cloud. that was from a different universe than our Marvel 616.
Yeah.
So sometimes that works when they do that. Other times you're like, why did you bother?
Yeah, why did we? I mean, at this point, what was there a reference to it? What were we going for? Which is, I
Right.
think, when you compare the DC versus Marvel, how well they've been able to work around, the universe. I mean, there's just been so many ways for them to work around this that I think that has led to them having a successful run with a lot of these shows like Moon Knight, because they're able to move around along this world. I mean, other stuff is going on, but it's
Yep.
like, I don't know, it just highlights the story so well.
Yeah. Marvel's done a great job with other universes. We've had Spider-Verse already,
Yes.
which was a killer movie. And now they're bringing out Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. And you saw part of those other universes in Doctor Strange, when he would go into parallel universes, or in the What If series, they had a bunch of parallel universes. So Marvel's done a great job of it to where people don't even question it now. They're like, oh yeah, different universe, no problem.
Yeah, no, and I'm just, like I said, I'm just excited for where we head to next. I mean, it really has become a journey of all of us just taking this ride of, we're going to see what happens next. And it's good to know that we don't need to rely on the old Avengers. I mean, I think that was a lot of people that were worried about, because after Endgame, I have a feeling many people were worried that, well, is it going to be okay now that you don't have, the Hulk, you don't have Iron Man, you don't have Thor, although Thor has another movie that's going to be coming up, but you don't have those main Avengers. Think there was some I don't know if it's going to work, but it's working so well.
Yeah, well, the Avengers are just like a pro football team, man. Like the New York Jets don't have the same team every year. So the Avengers, their lineup changes a lot too.
Yeah, which it does in the comic book too. Let's not forget there's many different variations of what the Avengers, and even who's in charge of the Avengers, which we saw a little bit of that in the previous movies. At one point it's Iron Man, Captain America, but you're gonna see this, and I think that's so cool to see that reflection from, when are we going to get this, version of the Avengers? Because then you're going to see Falcon, now Captain America.
Yeah.
So
at one point, Janet Van Dyne Wasp was the leader. That like I said, that's a rotating door of superheroes a lot of times. And even the comics even touched on it in a couple episodes where they had I don't want to say auditions. They interviewed people to be potential new members of the Avengers.
Yeah.
And those were always interesting episodes. So maybe we'll see something like that in the movie.
I mean, at this point, if you really think about it, we could get an Avengers series. I mean, with as much timeline as there is, you could probably even have a Disney Plus series out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to see a bunch of superheroes sitting in the waiting room with their resumes.
Yeah. I mean, then again, I remember how people were going crazy over whenever at the very end of the very first Avengers, how they were all sitting and having lunch.
Oh, the shawarma.
Yeah, but then think about it. That would be an iconic role to have them all lined up at the end of a movie with resumes.
Yeah, because Tony's gone, and I think he's going to stay gone, and I think Chris Evans, his contract's up, but he said he might do one more. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 slots to fill right there. So,
I'm glad you mentioned Tony. So, do you think? Now, bear with me, because I love how social media loves to throw out their theories. So there was a rumor about Tom Cruise originally offered the role as Iron Man. In the multi-universe, will we see Tom Cruise be the Iron Man of a different universe? Or are we going to see Robert Downey Jr. return in a different universe?
I've heard the rumors, and I've seen some pictures. He's going to be coming back from a different universe where he's superior Iron Man.
Yeah.
And if you think he was a real douchebag in this universe, superior Iron Man is just nobody likes him, not even his friends. So
what do we see first, Troy?
I think Tom Cruise will be a perfect superior Iron Man. I don't know about Robert Downey Jr. Do they have the rights to use his likeness? Pull up old video of him?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's going to have to get paid either way.
Crispin Glover, sued Back to the
Yeah.
Future when they did that.
I mean, someone's going to have to get paid somewhere. But I mean, if you really go to this multi-universe, and I just got to say, I love the art that goes behind it. The fact that somebody took the time to put Tom Cruise's head on an Iron Man, like, it's amazing, man. I love
Yeah.
Troy, you don't understand how many times I could be on Facebook and just clicked on one link, and then all of a sudden I'm into like, well, Tom Cruise could come back as a different, or well, if Bruce Banner did this, like, man, I could be. Social media is a very bad place for me because next thing you know, I start getting into the whole what ifs.
That rabbit hole is pretty deep.
Man, it's bad. It really is bad, especially when you got to look something up. And there's been times where you're like, well, why didn't he do this, or what's going on with this project? So
if we do see that with Tom Cruise, are we going to see Eric Bana, Ed Norton, two different versions of the Hulk with Mark Ruffalo?
I mean,
I'd be down for it.
I mean, but does this give some closure to the other Hulks? Because, you know, we know these other Hulk movies exist, and we saw Spider-Man do a very good job of tying those worlds together.
Well, so much so they're talking about letting Garfield finish out his trilogy of movies.
Yeah, I think you need to. I mean, I really think you need to, especially with, you know, the Morbius timeline that's been going on. You know, we still have to think about Venom is still out there. I mean, man, there's just the possibilities are endless.
Well, they pulled Venom into the main MCU universe now, too, with that end credit scene.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got him. Where does Ryan Reynolds fall into all this in Deadpool?
The possibilities are in it. Marvel does such a great job tying all their properties together, you know, across animation, movies, series, all that stuff. They tie it all together so well. And DC is just kind of disjointed. Everything is not connected. And I think that's why Marvel is doing a little better with their movies.
Yeah. But it's also stayed true. Like you mentioned that too. But I mean, I think someone out there at Marvel really looked at the comic books, and they've had to have planned this out. They had to have had this in the back of their minds when that first Iron Man came out. They've had to have said, look, we have this amazing franchise of comics, just a legendary catalog. What will make for the best path to, for one, continue to, because the comics haven't ended. We got to remind people, these comics are still coming out. You still got newer versions of the comics that are coming out. But obviously there's a roadmap that I'm saying that says, hey, let's follow this path and give the audience what they want. And I don't think I've ever heard somebody walk away and say they're disappointed. They may say, well, it's not my favorite movie of the franchise, but everybody's just happy.
Well, Marvel, they even published their timeline of what they planned on doing. And I mean, they've got it planned out probably a decade in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they fill out that timeline and then they start, you know, weaving all these little intricate things in the meantime to connect them all. And I think if DC did that, man, they'd be killing it right now. They could have 3 Justice League movies. They could have had Dark, you know, Justice League Dark already. We could have had our whole mystical universe of DC.
Yeah.
Instead of starting over Batman every 5 years.
You know, and that's crazy because right when we start Batman over, which, by the way, I am so disappointed because I never thought I was going to have to be the person that has to wait for HBO Max to watch the Batman. And I had told you, man, I'm going to go watch it. Man, it's tough to go to the movie theaters these days when you're a new parent. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'm watching the Batman on HBO Max when it comes out. But you're right, man, because it seems like, okay, they just did this new Batman movie. Really great. Do we now take off so that way we can start getting, like you mentioned, a Justice League? You know, we can get, I know we got, you know, Black Adam that's coming, a new Shazam movie that's coming. There's just so many movies, but it never really sticks so that way they can push the franchise forward.
Well, none of those movies are connected in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
What is this new Batman? Does that mean that the old Avengers Batman's, they're not going to do that anymore? Shazam, is he going to ever meet Black Adam? Are those guys going to be in the same universe? They have no cohesiveness to their movies. They're all just standalone. And
then you got John Cena by himself, and no one can see him because he's the peacemaker. And I mean, you and I have said it too. Maybe they should have really taken what this show was and they could have rolled with it because he came from the Suicide Squad into this show. They had the cameos. I mean, man, that could have pushed it forward, but then It
Yeah,
just,
well, that's really, now you mention it, that's really the only time DC has connected the two Suicide Squad movies and then the Peacemaker show. They've connected them, and there's been so many inside jokes on that if you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, I got that. They could have been doing this the whole time.
yeah. It just took John Cena to fix it. That's all it is. You need John Cena to fix things. John Cena to say some inappropriate things to Aquaman in order to get the point across. Which I wish I could repeat what he said to Aquaman, but we probably should not. It's a family-friendly show. Just go watch the show.
And what are they going to do now with the Flash?
I don't
Ezra
know.
Miller has been a bad boy.
Yeah, he may be done with the Flash. See, that's another thing too, man. You got to think all these actors that are in these superhero movies, like you need to be on your best behavior, because if Robert Downey Jr. was doing what Robert Downey Jr. was doing back then, I don't think he would have been Iron Man.
No, he completely rehabbed. He was good, but yeah, back then, no.
It was Tom Cruise. It was gonna have to be Tom Cruise. So no, I agree, man. I think DC's got to do a better job. DC has to do a better job of connecting these dots and getting the fans what they want, because I just don't know. And I think maybe with James Gunn,
I was thinking the same thing.
I mean, he can help out a lot.
He's the one who tied that second Suicide Squad movie to the first one, and with Peacemaker, James Gunn is just he's a universe maker. He's a proven entity. He can do these things. And then short-sighted Marvel, when they fired him for tweets he made 15 years ago.
Yeah.
DC was right at the door before his pink slip even finished hitting the desk.
But how funny did they take that pink slip and rip it up? They're like, "Oh no, we're just kidding. We
JK, come on back.
Come on back. Can you give us one more Guardians of the Galaxy movie, please?"
Yeah. Well, it didn't help. Dave Bautista said, "Well, who's your next pick to be Drax?"
Yeah,
I ain't doing it without him.
Yeah, no, and I mean, I think that's another thing too with these superhero movies. You find the right director. I mean, there's a band of loyalty with a lot of these actors, because, and I really think that's what we got with Captain America and Iron Man. I think Robert Downey Jr. was getting ready to bow out, and I think Chris Evans said, "Okay, if you're gone, I think it's time for me to go too." And I think it really just, I mean, yes, they definitely make a lot of money with these movies, but I think also it comes at times it's like, look, my friend is leaving, maybe it's time for me to leave too. And you saw it, like you mentioned with Dave Bautista. He's like, well, if you're getting rid of the director, why am I going to continue to do this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so man, it's crazy, man. I tell you, it's just, even with everything that has come out with DC, Marvel, they give us so much content to still be talking about it. I mean, how many times can we talk about DC and Marvel and just look and say, man, we are lucky enough to still get this type of content, not just through the movies, but through the comics and even cartoons, man. I mean, the kiddos, man, get to enjoy the younger versions of these characters too.
Yeah, they've been crying for the about the demise of comic books for decades now, and all these other producers are crying about, the end of superhero movies is coming soon. I don't see it happening.
Oh man, especially just with, I mean, I look at a lot of like the creative outlets, especially when it comes to comics. And, you've mentioned in the past, not all comic book movies are superhero movies.
Right.
But they got great storylines that you look at some of these comics and say, that can be a movie.
Yeah, a lot of them. And there's, they've been picking up a lot of the, I don't want to call them independent, but not the big two, not Marvel, DC. Image has been getting a lot of attention lately. Boom Studios, Aftershock. There's a lot of them that, people, I guess maybe movie producers were going through and go, hey, you know what? This would make a good screenplay.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, Boom Studios is one that really stands out to me too, because they just, I mean, I think they're it's like they're trying to find the secret to, like, our next movie is within the comic book world. And I mean, the comics need comic books need to get their flowers for a lot of the content we get on the screen. I think oftentimes, I don't think a lot of people realize that, man. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, they came up with this cool movie. Yeah, but there's some influence from a comic book.
Yeah, based on, there's a lot of people don't realize we're based on comics. I mean, look at Umbrella Academy.
Yeah.
That was a comic. People lost their mind over that show.
Yeah, no, and I think the more and more. So for those that think that comic books are they're gonna fade fast, and the superhero movie is gonna fade fast. Disney will always get my money the more stuff they give us, and I mean,
They've been making superhero movies since when was the Hulk on TV? Back in the
that's
70s.
right. I mean, you had the Hulk. Oh my God,
Spider-Man.
I'm trying to think. There's so many, man. Ghost Rider, the Ghost Riders.
Yeah.
How many different ones have we gotten from then?
It's just now we have the technology to make it actually look good.
Yeah. Okay, what movie? I'm thinking now, back in the day. I mean, Ghost Rider, obviously one that stands out. Ben Affleck's Daredevil could have probably used a little bit of a touch. I mean, yes, it was what it was.
Could have used some more editing.
Yeah. I'm less Ben Affleck, maybe. If you can edit him out altogether, that's cool. So
I don't even mind Affleck that much. I think they could have just made the story better.
Yeah, see, that's another thing too. Like you mentioned earlier, don't try to reinvent it. It's a good story, man. Just put it to the screen.
Yeah, just tell it. Tell the story.
Yeah, that's right.
The plot's already there.
I know. They did the hard work for you.
Yeah.
Just execute it.
Instead of a guy getting, Spider-Man being pulled up a building, he's just doing this with his arms to look like he's climbing.
Here, I need you to
make it look like he's actually climbing now.
Yeah. No, I mean, man, I can just imagine Tobey Maguire when, he was in Spider-Man, just like, man, all this stuff wasn't around when I was doing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Why does he get the good stuff? Before we get out of here, Troy, the countdown is on. Comic-Con. What's going on?
Oh, man. All the last second stuff, getting things put together now. We got, 8 days? A little over a week is all.
Yeah.
It's going to get here quick, yeah. And only one cancellation so far, Danny Bonaducci. He had something personal come up that he had to cancel for, but it wasn't just us. He canceled several events. So far, everybody else is still coming, and it's a heck of a lineup, man.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for the, obviously me, the Mick Foleys, and it's going to be a great lineup, man, for what you guys have going on. So people need to go get their tickets. Those that are watching us this morning and, checking out the stream, where can they get their tickets so that way they can get ahead?
Well, you can go to elpasocomiccon.com, and there's a link there that takes you over to buy the tickets, or you can buy it online at Ticketmaster.com or any Ticketmaster outlet.
Perfect. So before we go, one name that we got to bring up, and it's some sad news, man. Gilbert Godfrey passing away. Yesterday we heard the news. Gilbert Godfrey passing away. Such an iconic character, man, in so many ways. I think, and I mentioned this yesterday on the Big Show, was many different age groups will remember him from different movies or different roles that he played. What would you say you remember him from most?
I remember his stand-up, but his role, I would have to say Iago from Aladdin, the parrot.
Yeah. Me? Problem Child.
Recent people, the Affleck duck.
The Affleck duck before the Affleck
before
duck
he got fired.
Yeah. The Affleck duck. And just, man, it's that voice, man. It was, when you want to talk about the voice, you hear his voice and you right away know it was him. And it's sometimes hard because even when you watch Iago, you're just like, man, I just pictured Gilbert Godfrey.
Why is he screaming at me?
Like, I'm telling you, I don't want another cracker. I was like, okay, like, cool. So, yeah, man, I was thinking about, like, man, just different generations are going to remember him. Like you said, comedy, stand-up, to the movies, to the TV shows, to the ads that he did.
Yeah.
He definitely.
He's been around for a while. Or was around for a while.
Yeah, and I'm sure he was one of those that very private. I mean, you didn't really hear a lot too much. I mean, yes, when he would pop up on the scene, you would see him, but I don't think, was he ever a part of any of these, circuits where he's going around to different, cons? And
he's been to a few cons. But he wasn't like a mainstay on the con scene.
Yeah. So he just was definitely one of those that it was very private, man. I mean, every once in a while you hear something about him like, oh yeah, that's right, huh? And,
yeah, I didn't even know he was sick. I guess it had been a long-term sickness he had, So yeah, he just kept it to himself.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy, man. But our childhood, man, it's just crazy to think, man. So yeah, and if you guys want to watch Aladdin, watch. And I keep reminding people, watch the cartoon one, not the new one, not the Will Smith one. The Will Smith one, that's it.
Do you know who voices the parrot on the new one with Will Smith?
Who?
Alan Tudyk.
No way.
Yeah. He does a lot of animal. He plays Hey Hey on Moana.
Yeah.
He's getting into he's quite the voice actor. He's got a lot of voice acting credits if you look him up.
Man, see, and you got to really, and those are one of those movies where when you watch it, you're like, the voice sounds familiar, and then you start doing your, okay, I gotta see what's going on here.
IMDb. Yeah, IMDb solves a lot of fights around here.
Yeah, it does. Especially just walk by and say something that's completely wrong. Especially in this office, see how many people will run to a computer and start searching up for proof.
Just to prove you're wrong.
Just to prove you're wrong. So I've had somebody try to prove me wrong about something at one point in time. They're like, "No, you were wrong. He wasn't the Batman during this time." I was like, I know. I'm just saying it to rile you up. That's what I'm doing.
Mission accomplished.
And it works half the time. If you want to keep up with Zia Comics, let them know the socials and how they can stay and how they can follow you guys on social.
Oh man, we're all over the interwebs. We got Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and the TikTok.
That's right, TikTok, which we have right there. You'll see at the bottom of the screen. It says follow Zia Comics on TikTok. Which, yeah, you guys. I say this every week. You guys know I'm following them on TikTok. I've been on TikTok a lot more these days. So, yeah,
they're saying that's going to be the social media platform of the future. It's taken over. And I blame that all on COVID.
Yeah,
because
I mean, we all
nobody had TikTok.
We all need to be entertained. I mean, I tell you, whenever I was entertained by your trip to when you went to Gamma, because I'm like, is he gonna go? Like, where's he going? Like,
I wonder what he's doing.
I know. It's like and I'm asking myself, like, I couldn't just tell you, like, hey, did you go gambling? Like, come on, man.
Hey, maybe we can do a live from Gamma next year.
Hey, I'm totally for it. So
well, you're the boss now. You write the checks, so you can make it happen, right?
I heard that. Let me confirm that with. Let me confirm that first. Let me see.
They didn't give you the checkbook.
We'll see. Well, let me see what I got. Let me see what the budget looks like. Guys, remember to follow them on social media. Remember, you can follow the Big Show on social media, Big Show on the FM. Also follow myself, Joey, on the FM, TikTok, Facebook. We do this every Thursday, 11 o'clock on Facebook. Remember to follow us, and also you can catch it on Zia Comics YouTube as well. Until then, this has been another edition of Zia Comics Weekly. We'll see you next Thursday.
And later, nerds.